Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021. The time is 10:32 a.m. We're continuing our special budget meetings. This is fiscal year 22 solid waste budget review. Attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Phillips. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, so we'll proceed with our director, John Phillips, and our principal planner, Laureen Chaffin. Go right ahead. Who's going to lead us?
I'll begin. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us. John Phillips, or JP for the record. The Solid Waste Department is here today to present to you our fiscal year 2022 proposed budget. Principal Planner Laureen Chaffin has put together all of this budget work with input from all of our managers as well as our operations manager and myself. Laureen will be presenting the bulk of today's information and will answer most questions. However, any questions that you have specific that are about equipment should be directed to Doug Goodwin, our operations manager.
Okay.
With that, we'll go ahead and get started. I will turn the presentation over to Laureen.
Welcome to the Super Bowl. So I've provided you with our solid waste budget snapshot. So there's a high-level overlook of what solid waste is proposing for a budget. Each of those tabs, A budget, B budget, and C budget, are the backup is behind it. I've given you the 2020 actuals. What is in our 2021 budget? That is the amended budget. That makes a big difference for us on construction projects because most times we have to carry those forward. So I always work on an amended budget basis. And then our 2022 request. And then the difference between the two, so 22 over 21. As you can see, our operations budget is an increase. I'll go over that in a minute. And then our capital is a significant decrease. I've also provided you with a second document, which is the solid waste full budget report. Gives you the same information, 2020 actual, the amended budget, and our request for 22. I am showing some A budget items. I recognize that we have no control over the majority of the A budget items, but these are the ones that we do have an input on and that I've worked with Dina on. Okay. And then on the right-hand side, I've given you a % of increase, which I thought would be an easier way instead of diving into the whole B budget for every cost center is to just look at those if that's what the board chooses. So I'm going to bounce back and forth between the two documents. We'll start with the A budget. This is what our request is going to be encompassed. It's $128,164. The majority of that is our seasonal staff personnel. This is the ones that we hire for out at the rural sites and then to also assist at the transfer stations and then at the landfill. We're maintaining that same amount. We are having a very difficult time keeping people. We get to keep them for 6 months. It is only a $14 an hour position, so it's just once we start recruiting, we'll be recruiting for the entire budget year and replacing people as they come in and go out. I don't see a need to reduce that because my concern is that I kind of have that budgeted out. If I had all of the people, we would still spend that amount of money. The board's decision this year, it was to zero base our overtime budgets. We did take a look at them, and the only change that I have a slight change here of a reduction on the rural systems, but then I do have an increase for the landfill for overtime. Rather de minimis changes on that. Any questions on the personnel?
There was a slight increase in the just the bonuses. Is that to incorporate more employees?
It covers the one person that we added last year. So it's been overspent. B budgets. This is the high-level breakdown of each of those cost centers. And then I'm going to switch over to this document here. And we could talk about any of them that strike your eye. I can answer any of the questions as to why the increase or the decrease. The main driving factor on the overall, it's a 14% increase for operations, and the main driving factor is fuel. I have budgeted fuel for diesel. We do use the red dye, so untaxed diesel fuel, bulk fuel. I've budgeted that at $3.50 a gallon.
That's the off-road, right?
That is off-road, yes. And I can't guarantee that that's gonna hold. I have my fingers crossed, but I think I've under budgeted for that. And then the second line, and that really only equaled a 80-40, that's a 23% increase from the 2021 budget. And then the second one, that's the driving factor, and it's only a 13% increase, but that is the waste. So our waste has increased by 10%. That was our calendar year. Landfill, what went into the landfill, we have to pay for that to be hauled from the transfer stations to the landfill. The contract, we're on the last year of our contract, so there is not an increase factor, so they don't get a raise. It's just the factor of the waste.
Additional.
Do you have any other questions with regards to?
Where is the fuel again?
Fuel is right here at 80-40. This line right here.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay.
Did the, well, I guess we haven't really put the proposed change into effect, but I think direction was to do that, go from 5,000 to 10,000 in the,
Non-capital.
yeah.
And that's right here, and that did have an impact. That is 47.
47%, okay.
And I'm more than happy to show you what the items are. If you'd like to take a look, we have those broken down for each of the
They would
costs.
just be in the capital section if they weren't here,
Correct.
right?
Yes, and there's really nothing out of the ordinary from the standard. We've had non-capital in our budget for a very long time, and we do have a lot of items that we end up purchasing. Nothing is really kind of standing out.
What typically comprises your non-capital? Things
So
like-
a generator, pumps, things that.
That would break down.
Mechanics tools. In the admin, it would be credit card machines, office chairs.
Minor stuff,
Yes.
okay. Fair enough. Looks good.
And then there is some changes here in the travel and training. You'll see that the computer user training cost is up 500%, but I also would have you take a look. We dropped about $11,000 out of our travel and training budget, and we've shifted things, so we're not doing the travel, so there isn't a lot of per diem and lodging, and we did shift those all over into more online. We do have a lot of employees that are required to maintain licensures.
Licenses.
And so that, we've put that CEU time into computer training.
Is that working pretty well?
We're struggling. I'm on the board for the Idaho Solid Waste Association, and we have been really struggling with trying to put together a virtual conference to meet the Solid Waste Association members' needs for CEUs, so that we can kind of keep in contact throughout the state. And that has been quite the challenge, to either find the platform or to put together something that's virtual. I don't know that I have anything else that stands out.
Not really.
These two, this line right here, that is the commitment to putting funds from operations into that restricted closure, post-closure dollar amount. And then this one, we budget for. It is not a check that the county writes, but that is depreciation and depreciation. So depletion of our assets and then depletion of the landfill itself, and that's the cost factor. Years ago, the board chose to not budget for that. It makes a significant difference on the CAFR when the auditor's office books that at the end of the year, and then the whole fund is under budgeted. So So I don't budget it exactly because those things change depending on
Estimates.
what we're buying and the improvements that we make on the facility. Just kind of try to balance that out. So that is B budget. And then the capital, I'll bounce back over to this other document. If you look in your packet with the snapshot, the last page at the very bottom, these are all the capital requests that we have for 2022. So for the last several years, we've been steadily just increasing the video surveillance system that we have. So we have video surveillance at both the transfer stations. This year, we will be adding the landfill to that. And then the request here is to put some, we just put power in at Micah and Sunup, and Worley is coming next, and we'll be putting video surveillance there. So that's that request.
But your overall capital budget is down.
Yes, it is, because we're not building significant in the department.
Okay.
Just so you know, a knuckle boom crane, that's at the transfer stations, that's what they use to load the waste into the trailers. That's usually a question.
And the excavator, that looks like a rebuild price and not a,
No, that is actually a new price.
oh.
Really?
An
So it's
excavator is
small? I mean, how,
It's not as much metal as the compactor,
oh, okay,
but it is a vital piece of equipment.
sure.
The articulated truck is actually a used piece of equipment, and that's a large six-wheel drive truck. I don't think there's really anything. I will bring up the UTVs. There are two of them. We have two. They are that we purchased them in 2008. They are utilized at the transfer stations. They are underpowered for what we need. When we bought them in 2008, they did exactly what we needed them to do. But our facilities have changed over time. And what we would like to do is we would like to surplus these and offer them to building and grounds so that building and grounds could continue to utilize something. Greg would be tickled to death to get them. And then we would get a larger piece of equipment that we would utilize at the transfer stations. It would save. It's a win-win. It would be something that solid waste gets, more power to do what they need to do, and the general fund would be able to utilize that. And not have to
Are we
spend any.
actually catching anybody doing bad things at any of the transfer stations or?
With the video surveillance, the video surveillance is used all the time. JP will get a call for a complaint. Recently, it was on mask mandate. Somebody would call and say the scale house operator did not have a mask on. And
Really?
it's a useful tool. He's in his office, brings up the video, confirms, we have a conversation with the employee, or, they only had it half on. We've had law enforcement come in. They've done several investigations where they had burglaries and things like that, and the materials came through our facility. So we do right now at the rural sites have trail cameras. Yeah. That's a 10-issue network, so you kind of have to go out, get the car, come back in. But we are also able to take a look at license plates, run those plates, contact people about improper disposal.
Very good.
So that will kind of bring us into the realm of being able to access that a little bit easier.
What size UTVs are you getting rid of? What are they, like 500 cc? So you're going to go for what, like 1,000? Or 750 anyway?
Yeah, 750 probably.
What do you haul with them? Sizable trailers? What do you? Because if you need the
Snow
power,
plows,
it's.
right?
So we use them for snow plowing.
Oh, okay.
Around in
Tight areas, yeah.
And then the maintenance guy does pull a trailer around with a lawnmower and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
So it's more like a little truck with a little bed
Yep,
on it.
yep.
So, and the ones that we had, they didn't have cabs on them, so they're not all weather. We have put a canvas cab on the ones from 2008. What we're proposing now is to have it all put
Enclosed.
together so that it is all weather, they can use it year-round. For facilities improvements, I will point out Ramsey's right here. I spoke about it earlier this year. The $350,000 here is not only the standard $150,000, which is a facility improvement dollar amount, it is engineering to look at a retrofit for how we can make some changes to the Ramsey transfer station to handle the influx of customers that we have so that that facility does not fail. We're at a stretching point at Ramsey. So this is the first step. This would be engineering, try to come up with a design of what we can do. And then in 2023, we'll come back with a facilities improvement, which will be substantial. And then this one down here, landfill expansion, that is permitting of the acreage south of the landfill. That will also be, we'll be working on some of the pre-design for phase 3 of the landfill. And then I do anticipate that probably in 2023, we'll be doing design and 2024 construct of phase 3. Potentially, if we can work it out, we would do 2 phases at the same time with economy of scale. We're looking at that as well. So I'm very pleased to tell you that based on this right here, overall, the solid waste budget is only up 1%. And that's pretty remarkable, given the fact that operationally we're up 14.
14%.
That is remarkable.
Yes.
Guys.
Good job.
And then I will also point out, because, well, my job is to make sure that everything is there. I point out the revenue up here. At this point in time, we did reduce our fees. As of January of 2020, with COVID, we saw an increase in our revenue, and I am still projecting an increase in revenues. So at this point in time, this is definitely not a balanced budget. The auditor's office will come in and they'll do a fund appropriations, but I am predicting at this point in time that there will be $2 million going into the fund. That will cover those big expenses for improvements at Ramsey and then a landfill expansion. So again, that's the reason why the enterprise fund is so vital, is that we have the ability to manage our revenue to cover those big capital outlays.
So the 14% increase, is that tonnage?
For the B budget,
For the B budget, yeah.
for the most part, it's it's for the hauling and for
Fuel.
the fuel.
But when you say, no, I'm sorry, when you say your business is up 14%.
10% was the landfill waste.
Oh, 10%.
Waste that went into the landfill was 10%.
Okay. Got it. Which is higher than the population growth.
Last year it was 6. We have had a steady waste stream growth since 2012. 2012 was an anomaly because it was like a negative 0.8%. But prior to that, that's the last time that we went backwards.
What's interesting is that the figures that I've seen, and I actually happened to hear Sam Wolkenauer on Friday, from the Department of Labor. This was sort of his updated economic forecast. But what he indicated is we're averaging, I guess, Kootenai County, 2 to 2.5% growth. So if you take 2.5% in population, but 10% in load, it's like kind of interesting. I realize they're not going to track, but that's quite a discrepancy.
They track somewhat, but tourism does have a big impact on solid waste.
That's a good point.
And
Thank
so you do have that influx of people that are coming in.
Swelling.
So then you do have,
Good point.
and I will consistently tell you this, when the economy is good, people throw things away and the waste stream goes up. When the economy goes down, everybody tightens their belt, you'll see your recycling go up and your waste stream will go down. It's a great indicator. Solid waste is a great indicator of the economy, and I can tell you right now, the economy in Kootenai County is rocking.
Are you still seeing a lot of construction waste?
Yes. and wood waste. These storm events are just killer for us.
Yes.
I estimated that the January 13th event will cost the solid waste department about $140,000.
And is any of that ICRIM?
None of it's
eligible?
ICRIM.
Okay.
It is
That's your-
FEMA eligible, and
FEMA
we're
eligible.
working on that.
Okay.
But, you know, we just had another storm event, and more wood will be coming in, and it is what it is. It's just, you know, the only, I kind of laughed because FEMA has a mitigation grant, and really all solid waste could ask for is that all trees be removed from Kootenai County. That would be the only mitigation we could ask for, and that's just not reasonable, so. Any questions?
Leslie, Bill?
All I'd say is thank you. I think you guys do a great job.
Whose idea was it to create, to basically, you know, redefine it as an enterprise fund? Does that go back to Roger Satterfield?
Oh, well, it would be before Roger. It would be more, it would probably been in the first, so Kim Yerxa era, so in
Oh.
the late 80s.
Late 80s.
It's more in statute, mainly because, you know, the law says that the cities may, but the counties shall provide a waste disposal system. And then it lays out the different factors, the different ways that you could fund that. You could fund it with the tax if you'd like, but if you chose the enterprise fund, if you chose the fee base, then you need to keep the fees separate so that what the fund generates, then it pays for itself.
It's its own entity?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will reflect that this dollar amount right here, that does include the interfund transfers. So that does include $860,000 that the
comes
solid
to
waste
us.
department pays to the county for services.
Okay.
And I have that broken down. I could send that to you if you'd like to look at it. That's kind of based off of a fairly old internal audit that the auditor's office put together years ago.
Okay.
When do you think that should be looked at again?
Well, I always think it should be looked at quite regularly, mainly because, you know, it'd be interesting to see what the value is. You know, there are a lot of things that are out there. You know, traditionally, you know, I'm the keeper of that historical knowledge. I've been here a long time. Solid Waste funded 2 positions from HR, and it has funded 3 staff accountants in the auditor's office. They actually started in solid waste, and there was some, you know, there was a shakeup, and we sent them out of solid waste downtown to work in the auditor's office, and then we took back accounts receivable and only got 1 person. You know, so all of that's kind of mixed in there. We purchased some machines for reprographics. You know, there's a lot of history behind that. They're also in that $860,000 is solid waste portion for liability insurance and workers' comp, and there is a component for Panhandle Health District as well. So the county you know, sends or gives money to the Panhandle Health District, and part of that is a component back from solid waste. So I'm always up for, you know, taking a look as to, you know, the value of what it is. You know, I'd be surprised if it went up, but it is what it is. Solid waste needs to pay their portion of, you know, the component of what we do as well. That's the upside and the downside of being an enterprise fund.
How was it determined? You don't have to go through intricate detail. But
How is it determined on how much the
yeah,
dollar
the
amount?
Mhm.
What we did was an internal audit. The auditors came back and they tried to apply things like grants management, you know, the cost of grants management to the county, and they were going to apply that to solid waste. Well, solid waste doesn't use grants management. So we kind of, we took out the things that services that solid waste doesn't utilize. But it does break down to the auditor's office, the treasurer's office, the prosecutor's office,
So they
civil
were
division,
allocating, okay, county
HR,
components, okay.
IT, reprographics, postage, liability insurance, workers' comp, and one other. I can't remember the
Okay,
last one, but
okay.
it's all broken down so that, and then as, you know, when things shifted, when Dan Green was commissioner, it was changing. If our operations budget went up 2%, then the interfund transfers went up 2%. And that happened for a couple of years as well.
Okay. All right. Leslie?
Whose budget? If solid waste budget went up or if county's budget?
If the solid waste department budget went up, then interfund transfer. I would argue that because, for instance, accounts payable, we'll take that as an example. When we started this, the auditor's office managed all of accounts payable. We just sent the bills down and they paid them. Since then, we now have Logos, New World. Our staff enters all of that data. We scan all of that data. I'm not in any way saying that the auditor's office doesn't do anything, but the manual work for accounts payable is done by solid waste staff. So therefore, why would you increase what you're paying the auditor's office? Treasurer's office posts our payments. So we pay a component for that. IT does the support and covers the majority of all of the computers, servers, et cetera. So we have those components as well.
Okay. Bill?
Good.
Okay. I'm okay too.
So my question is,
Yes, ma'am.
the way that we've presented this, is it okay for me to press the button and submit our budget to the auditor's office on the, I believe it's the 9th of April?
Yes.
If it's okay with you, I'll do it
Thoughts?
today.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
You got all three.
Okay.
Thank you, as usual. Good job.
Thank you. Nice job, Laureen.
Thanks.
Laureen, you're not going anywhere.
That was a statement, not a question.
Have you documented any of your historical knowledge?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Good. Thank you.
And thank you, Doug. Appreciate it in your new role,
Very much.
JP, everyone. Okay, then, public comment? None. 10:59, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's a record.